The girl went to her room and then disappeared without a trace. The police began searching, using drones, helicopters, and many volunteers. Despite all their efforts, they were unable to find any traces of the missing girl in several days. Only on the third day of extensive searches did new details emerge in the story, instantly making it one of the most high-profile cases in the country, as no one expected such a turn of events. Athena Strand was born on May 25, 2015 in the small American town of Duncan, Oklahoma. Soon after her parents divorced, her father moved to Texas while Athena stayed with her mother. However, her father maintained constant contact with his daughter and visited her whenever possible. Sometimes the mother also brought Athena to see him. Despite their divorce, they got along well, and she wanted her daughter to spend enough time with her father. Later on, Athena's mother remarried, and so did her father. The girl gained two younger sisters, whom she was very close with and tried to spend as much time with them as possible. Athena was a normal, happy child, who always brightened up those around her with her positive attitude. She loved playing and spending as much time outdoors as possible. In late 2022, when she was 7 years old, she temporarily moved to Texas to live with her father. The plan was for Athena to stay there until Christmas break, before returning to Oklahoma with her mother. During this time period, Athena attended a local elementary school where she made friends easily. Her father's house was located in a remote rural area surrounded by forests and fields, which suited both him and his daughter just fine since they enjoyed spending time together outdoors. On November 30th at around 4:15 p.m. after returning from school by bus like usual, her dad were out hunting, while Elizabeth stayed home with Athena. That evening, however, the little girl was in a bad mood and started arguing with Elizabeth. As a result, Athena got upset and went to her room while Elizabeth went to the kitchen to prepare dinner for her. About 20 minutes later, she entered the girl's room to call her for dinner, but Athena wasn't there. Elizabeth searched the entire house and even looked outside in the yard, but couldn't find the girl anywhere. After that, she called her husband's relatives, who lived just a few hundred meters away. Sometimes Athena would visit them, but they said they hadn't seen her. Elizabeth then called her husband and told him what had happened. He told her not to waste any time and immediately contact the police before heading home himself. Elizabeth made the emergency call at around 6:40 p.m. and officers arrived at their home within 14 minutes. She explained the situation to them and shared her version of what had happened. In her opinion, Athena might have run away from home because of their argument. However, Athena's relatives strongly doubted this theory. First of all, Athena was only 7 years old and had never been far from home before. Secondly, it was already evening outside, and the girl was afraid of the dark. At first, the police treated Elizabeth with suspicion. This was mainly due to the fact that she contacted the police only 40 minutes after discovering her child missing. But after listening to her story about how she searched for the girl throughout the house and called relatives, they concluded that she was likely telling the truth. The officers immediately began searching in the area. Despite it being dark outside, they set out to search forests and fields within a radius of several kilometers from home. According to their main theory, Athena could have left home and gotten lost in the darkness, so the police focused all their efforts on covering this area. They also considered a possible abduction but found no evidence in that direction. There were no signs of forced entry into the house. Elizabeth did not hear any noise or screams, and none of the neighbors saw anything suspicious that evening. Relatives of the girl helped in search efforts along with other concerned residents of town. Athena's mother went there as soon as she learned about her daughter's disappearance. The searches continued until almost 5 a.m., but they still couldn't find any traces of Athena. The situation was complicated by difficult terrain around their house, especially during night time. At 7 a.m., police resumed their search involving even more officers. In addition, when news spread about a missing girl throughout district, hundreds of volunteers joined in search efforts. Some searched on horseback or ATVs, while police used drones and helicopters equipped with thermal imaging cameras. Unfortunately, they still couldn't locate Athena throughout this entire day. Police were worried for her life since winter had already begun. Despite Texas being a southern state, temperatures dropped down to 10 degrees Celsius these days. Considering that she wore light clothing, it would be very difficult for her to endure such weather. On the third day, Searches continued and police expanded their search area to 10 kilometers around the house. They also involved colleagues who investigated possible criminal aspects of the case. Despite initially having no evidence of abduction, police increasingly doubted that Athena left home willingly. During these days, they combed through several kilometers in all directions but still couldn't find the girl. It seemed highly unlikely that she could have walked such a distance on her own, without coming across any populated areas. Investigators tried to identify everyone who was near Athena's house that evening. This task was quite challenging since the residence was surrounded by trees and located several dozen meters from the main road. In addition, there were no surveillance cameras in this area. Nevertheless, they quickly obtained their first lead. It turned out that on the same evening, a courier service delivered a package to the girl's house. The investigators immediately contacted FedEx, where they were told that a third-party contractor was responsible for delivering to that address. They contacted the organization that handled parcel delivery and determined which van had arrived at Athena's house that evening. Fortunately for the police, each of these vehicles was equipped with surveillance cameras, and they immediately requested video footage from November 30th. Rewinding to the time when the van pulled up to the house, investigators saw very disturbing images. It was visible how the driver dragged a girl resembling Athena into his car. They immediately obtained information about the driver from the company. He turned out to be 31-year-old Tanner Horner, and police officers went to his address. Soon after, he was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and taken in for questioning. As soon as investigators mentioned having video footage from a camera, Horner started talking. He explained that he did indeed deliver a package to Athena's house that evening. When he reversed his van, he felt an impact and got out to see what it was. Horner saw the girl lying on the ground and realized that he accidentally hit her with his car. Approaching closer, he noticed she hadn't suffered any serious injuries. The girl was conscious. She wasn't crying but even spoke with him. According to Horner's account, she said she would tell her father about what happened, so he panicked. Afterward, he put her in his van while thinking about how to resolve this problem. She continued talking with him and said her name is Athena. Horner didn't know what to do in this situation. He understood that if she told adults about this incident, he could face legal problems, and then he told detectives something that caused them great confusion. To say it mildly, according to Horner, he couldn't come up with anything better than killing her. The man said that he first tried to break her neck, but it didn't work out for him. So, he strangled the victim, took her body to a river near a neighboring town, and threw it into the water. Naturally, such an account of events raised significant questions for the police, but the suspect provided them with the exact location where he left Athena. Investigators immediately went there and indeed found her body. The news of the girl's murder shocked not only her relatives but also thousands of people across the country. By that time, all major media outlets were reporting on this case, and people were shocked by such cruelty. After discovering the body, Horner was charged with kidnapping and murder. While waiting for medical experts' report, detectives began scrutinizing every aspect of the criminal's personality in an attempt to better understand his motives. The version of events told by Horner seemed completely implausible. According to him, he lightly hit the girl with his van without causing any serious injuries. However, he became so frightened that he immediately decided to kill her. Considering that running over a child without causing harm could result in nothing more than dismissal as punishment, Horner's story appeared very strange. Police determined that Horner was engaged and had a child born 1 year before these events. In addition to delivering packages, he occasionally worked for Uber. Horner also pursued music and was a member of a group that played in various cafes in the neighboring city of Fort Worth. On social media, he posted numerous photos with his child, footage from musical performances, and other things that give no impression that Horner is a real monster. Prior to his arrest, he had no legal problems, and throughout his biography, the police could not find any hints that this person is a cruel murderer. Just 2 months before Athena's death, the man posted photos where he spent time with his son and his grandparents. The wait for the reports from medical experts who were supposed to shed light on the true picture of what happened dragged on for several weeks. Meanwhile, Athena's parents filed a lawsuit against FedEx and the contractor company accusing them of allowing Horner to work. They demanded higher standards for employee screening and selection to prevent such crimes in the future. Soon one fact emerged that made this whole story even sadder. It turned out that the package Horn delivered that evening was a Christmas gift for Athena. Her parents ordered her a Barbie doll, which she had long wanted. When the conclusions of medical experts became known to the public, more questions arose in this case. According to documents, the victim died within an hour after being abducted. Various injuries were found on her body, and strangulation was determined as cause of death. However, detectives' main theory did not confirm itself. They believed Horner noticed the girl near her house and decided to abduct her in order to violate her sexually. But medical experts found no evidence of sexual assault, which puzzled law enforcement since such motives seemed most obvious. None of them were sure if events unfolded as described by killer himself, because there was no logic behind it. Then investigators speculated that initially perpetrator planned to violate girl, but something went wrong. According to detective's version, he saw an opportunity when, after arguing with father's wife, Athena went outside into the yard. At that same time, Horner drove up to the house to deliver the package and noticed the girl. According to investigators' version, he saw this as an opportunity to fulfill his perverted fantasies. Athena was alone near a house surrounded by trees, completely isolated from prying eyes. Horner could either lure her into his van through deception or intentionally run over her in order to place her in the car without resistance. What happened next is unclear. There are two main versions that seem most logical. Horner may have planned to take the girl far away from home and commit what he had intended there, but she either started screaming or tried to escape. Fearing being caught, he killed her and then took the body to a river. According to the second version, Horner still could have committed some depraved acts on victim that did not involve direct contact. In such case, medical experts would not be able to establish evidence of sexual assault. Soon detectives obtained indirect and quite unexpected confirmations that this crime really could have had a sexual motive. Horner had no legal problems prior to this murder, which is quite rare occurrence. In most cases, people capable of deliberately taking someone's life start with much less serious crimes. For many weeks, detectives thoroughly studied Horner's biography. They spoke with his relatives, friends, and acquaintances, trying to find any hints that the man may have been involved in other crimes. And in the end, they had a breakthrough. The police managed to find several people who said they had been victims of Horner's actions as children. The police did not disclose their identities or any details of what happened for the sake of the investigation. It is only known that one of the victims accused him of assaulting her 9 years ago. In addition, Horner was charged with 3 more episodes related to abuse of minors in 2013. At this point, it is unknown whether we are talking about one child or 3 different victims. But that's not all either. It turned out that one of Horner's victims had publicly spoken for many years about how he subjected her to violence when she was 16 years old. For years, the girl wrote about it on her social media accounts, trying to convey to everyone the fact that Horner was a dangerous criminal. For some reason, he did not face punishment for what he did and was not even considered a suspect. The girl accusing him of this crime wrote that no one simply believed her all these years. However, after Horner killed Athena, this accusation received much more attention. They revealed his true nature and possible motives. Now Horner's will also be tried separately for these 4 episodes from the murder trial against Athena. It is worth noting another detail, which by itself does not seem significant, but in context with all Horner's crimes gives an additional insight into his true character. After his identity became known to the public, internet users discovered a killer account on TikTok. There were only few videos there, and only last video shot few weeks before murder caught interest. In this video, Horner recorded his reaction while watching someone catching a bug in glass and then slowly poisoning it with a spray. Looking at the bug dying on Horner's face, there was a rather creepy expression as if he genuinely enjoyed the process of killing. If the man really was a sadist who derived genuine pleasure from seeing someone's death, his version of Athena's murder is once again put into question. Horner claimed that the only reason he killed her was fear of punishment for much smaller crime. But if we assume that he had such sadistic inclinations, his story seems even more absurd. During preparation for trial, authorities announced they will seek death penalty. Horner himself hired a lawyer who advised him to retract his confession and declare his innocence. But this is unlikely to help him avoid punishment. Considering that the police have video evidence from the van, as well as Horner's testimony about the exact location of the body, his guilt is more than obvious. In addition, additional evidence may be disclosed during the trial, which are currently unknown. Most likely, traces of Athena's DNA were found in the van, and genetic material from her clothes and body could have been collected to identify her killer. We can only monitor the course of the trial and wait for what other details will become known to the public.